So, how are we going to structure these groups? Basically, what you've heard about so far, so this stuff is at least more easily facilitated. I'm not going to say it's ever easy, but it makes it doable. Hospitality is the primary focus for hosts and leaders, because hospitality is seeking somebody else's good more than your own. That's primary. That's rule one. We make others feel comfortable in our space. It's not the other way around. And that's the whole point of God wanting to raise up hosts and leaders. People that can do that. That will... Now listen, that doesn't mean you're Martha Stewart and everything has to be perfect. That's not what that means. It just means that you're willing to lay down your life to make an attempt to make others feel better. And that's a big deal for any of us. Being welcoming, accepting, modeling servanthood, and showing genuine care for others is the baseline for community groups. Elders offer another level of leadership that includes teaching. It is important to note that in Paul's teaching, an elder had to willingly practice hospitality as evidence of their call and qualification to be elders. It is listed amongst the other things the elders had to do, is given to hospitality, able to make others feel good in their space. By definition and expectation, the community group host, this is the entry level. This can be new or even non-believers, by the way. You can serve before you believe and serve before you belong in our world. That's possible. We planted this church, or helped plant this church in Fountain Valley for the second generation Vietnamese immigrants. And when he started, on the core team there, about 50 people, at least 15 of them had no faith association whatsoever, did not believe in Jesus. I don't know what the number is right now, but I know that that's how it started probably 7-8 months ago. And I believe some of those people have since made commitments. In fact, I know they have. So it's possible to be a community group host, even if you're really, really green, to share your home and some resources to make a comfortable place for a group to meet. They labor to provide an environment that is welcoming, organizing, absent of distraction, for as long as the group meets. Group hosts receive their oversight primarily from group leaders, then the pastor shepherd representing Crossline Community Church, and the expectation. Providing clean, safe gathering environment, make people feel welcome in their home, provide and or organize any food or beverages to be served, assist the group leaders requested. These hosts can become the glue of the group. They're the people that just kind of glue it all together. People want to be there just to be with them, if nothing else happens. That's part of being a good host. The community group leaders facilitate group life. They coordinate with the group hosts. If they have one, you can be both. You can be a host and a community group leader. Lead weekly meetings via provided materials and stay in connection with members of the group when the group is not gathered. Email, text, phone, Facebook. Who has any excuse not to be connected to a dozen people anymore sometime during the week? I can't even find a place to get away from people anymore. You know, remember the days when... I tell you, when I was in the graphics business, the worst invention ever was the fax machine. Because I would always tell people we were working on their project, then suddenly they'd say, well, fax me what you have so far. It made a liar have to come clean. Because I couldn't say that I'm working on it if I wasn't working on it. Sometimes working on it was thinking about it, I just didn't have it very well developed. So fax machines ruined my career, I tell you. Okay.
That was a long time ago, right?
Yeah, exactly. Look at how far we've gone since then. Don't remind me. It's 15 years.
What's a fax, Uncle Rick?
Well, you see, there was this thing called paper. They are practicing elders who have a desire to see people grow in their faith and blessings in life. Group leaders are given oversight by the pastor shepherd recognized by Crossline Community Church and are growing in their ministry gifts according to 1 Timothy 3:6-7. The expectations of a group leader: they give leadership to a community group and facilitate the gatherings. They make use of provided teaching materials for the group elders. They facilitate and guide discussions. They lead ministry and prayer times. They stay connected to the group members beyond gathering times. They look out for the good of the group, inform group elders of significant events, needs, concerns, etc. They take direction from the group elders and give regular reports to them. In other words, you're not doing this alone, and in fact, if you are now a church split. You know, the whole point of groups isn't to, it's to make the church more functional. It's not to make the church into a bunch of little independent churches. And that has to be clearly stated, because the one thing I'm against is disunity. And disunity often happens in small groups because people suddenly get the revelation that they've heard from God in a little different way than the rest of the group. And why doesn't the rest of the group catch up? And then that leads to some pretty bizarre things. We ain't into that. We're into staying connected to the larger group, just being a more efficient, effective tool for the whole group in the neighborhood. That's the point of it. Then your community group elders. These are the equippers that are set apart usually for full-time service. They're pastor shepherds recognized by Crossline Community Church as staff, either paid or volunteer. They have received intensive training, are living out their call according to 1 Timothy 3:6-7, are under the authority of Crossline Community Church leadership and the Reformed Church in America. The expectations, they manage the biblical vision for the group life. They are the ones that are responsible to help facilitate overall in all the group life an Acts 2 experience. And that's no small thing. You know, every pastor that's a planting pastor, especially the one that starts a church, the real thing that he's been given by God isn't different than every other church, except there's a vision with nuance. There's a vision that, yes, there's other churches in the community and they're reaching people, but I specifically have this burden from God to reach those people. That's the nuance. It's the same command, the same Great Commission, but God gives vision. So their responsibility is to steward and govern that vision. They're the ones that manage it because God gave it to them. And in this case, that's Tyson. I mean, that's who I'm looking to manage this vision. If he don't manage it, he'll hear about it. Not from me, but from those others. You know?
Lightning storm coming in.
I never would do that. Okay, the community group elders give pastoral oversight and care to the group leaders and members. They prepare or acquire weekly teaching materials. They provide weekly flow instructions for the gatherings because we're going to change it up some. It isn't going to become this, oh yeah, now this is the time of night, we know this happens. That's one of the reasons nothing happens. That lowers expectation. If you can set your watch by what happens in your small group every week, I'm telling you kids, it's time to change. God is not that predictable. You're that predictable. You know, I say every Christmas I'm going to buy God the same two things, a calendar and a watch, because obviously he doesn't have those. I'm just saying. He doesn't care about my timing. And it drives me completely nuts. I'm a typical Northern European driven by time. I'm driven by a clock. That's why I don't wear a watch, so I don't do it worse than I already do it. They give direction, encouragement, and oversight to group leaders, and that's going to take place specifically in our scenario once a month in our own meeting. They take responsibility for the spiritual health and safety of the groups. In other words, we're on a spiritual journey that's got danger. The best thing we can do is offer the protection that God instructs us, and that's one of the reasons he calls leaders also. Leaders don't lead you into danger. They can lead you into dangerous situations, but they lead you there safely. A leader that leads you into danger and leaves you there, that's a hireling. That's what Jesus said, avoid those guys. Yeah. We give regular reports, or those that are community group elders give regular reports to Crossline Community Church leadership to stay in touch.